Leo XI was Florentine and the great-nephew of Leo X. Born Alessandro Ottaviano de' Medici, his pontificate is one of the briefest in history, having lasted under a month. He was from the prominent house of Medici, originating from Florence. Medici's mother opposed his entering the priesthood and sought to prevent it by having him given secular honors, but after her death, he eventually was ordained a priest in 1567. In his career, he served as Florence's ambassador to the Pope, Bishop of Pistoia, Archbishop of Florence, papal legate to France, and as the cardinal prefect for the Congregation of the Bishops and Religious. He was elected to the papacy in the March 1605 papal conclave and served as pope for 27 days. The Italian and French parties among the cardinals would go against King Philip III of Spain's demands of not electing Alessandro, who was supported by King Henry IV of France. He chose to be called Leo XI in honor of his uncle, Pope Leo X. He was crowned on the 10th of April 1605 by the protodeacon, Cardinal Francesco Sforza, and he took possession of the Basilica of St. John Lateran on the 17th of April 1605. When he was elected, Leo XI was almost 70 years of age. His death came as a result of fatigue and cold in the ceremony of taking possession of the Basilica of St. John Lateran on the 17th of April. He started suffering from a fever the following day. Paul V was Roman. Born Camillo Borghese, he was trained in jurisprudence, was made cardinal priest of Sant Eusebio, and the cardinal vicar of Rome by Pope Clement VIII. He was elected as pope in 1605, following the death of Pope Leo XI. Pope Paul V was known for being stern and unyielding, defending the privileges of the Church. He met with Galileo Galilei in 1616 and was involved in the controversy over heliocentrism. He canonized and beatified several individuals during his papacy and created 60 cardinals in 10 consistories. His insistence on ecclesiastical jurisdiction led to conflicts with secular governments, notably with Venice, which resulted in an interdict on the city in 1606. This disagreement was eventually mediated by France and Spain in 1607. Pope Paul V's diplomacy also strained relations with England, as his actions were perceived as undermining moderate Catholics in the country. In Rome, he financed the completion of St. Peter's Basilica, improved the Vatican Library, and restored the ancient Roman aqueduct, Aqua Traiana. Pope Paul V established the Bank of the Holy Spirit in 1605 and is also known for fostering the rise of the Borghese family through nepotism. He passed away on January 28, 1621, after suffering from a series of strokes, and was succeeded by Pope Gregory XV. Gregory XV was Bolognese. Born Alessandro Ludovisi in Bologna in 1554, was educated at the Roman College and the University of Bologna. He served various roles within the Church, including referendary of the Apostolic Signatura, vicegerent of Rome, and auditor of the Sacred Roman Rota. In 1612, he was appointed Archbishop of Bologna and consecrated a bishop. He became a cardinal in 1616. During his papacy, Gregory XV focused on the welfare of the Church, including creating his nephew Ludovico Ludovisi a cardinal. He played a limited role in European politics, providing assistance to Ferdinand II and Sigismund III Vasa in their fights against Protestants and the Ottoman Empire, respectively. Gregory XV was the last pope to issue an ordinance against witchcraft, and he introduced reforms in the election of future popes. He established the Congregation for the Propagation of the Faith and was influential in bringing the artist Guercino to Rome. Gregory XV created 11 cardinals and canonized several saints, including Francis Xavier and Ignatius of Loyola. Pope Gregory XV suffered from kidney stones and other ailments, ultimately dying in 1623. He was buried in the church of Sant'Ignazio. Urban VIII was Florentine. Born Maffeo Vincenzo Barberini, he expanded the papal territory by force of arms and advantageous politicking, and was also a prominent patron of the arts and a reformer of church missions. His nepotism would find great success on the battlefield against the Italian city-states, where his family members successfully won him the Wars of Castro, making him the last pope to have extended the territory of the papal state. His love of grandeur and wealth was so well known that he and his family would be lampooned with the statement, "What the barbarians did not do, the Barberini did." After a failed coup by the Spanish faction of cardinals, the papal debt would reach 35 million scudi and consume over 80% of the annual income of the state. He was also an opponent of Copernicanism and involved in the Galileo affair. He is the last pope to date to take the pontifical name Urban. Innocent X was Roman. Born Giovanni Battista Pamphili, of a family from Gubbio in Umbria who had come to Rome during the pontificate of Pope Innocent IX. Pamphili was trained as a lawyer and graduated from the Collegio Romano. He followed a conventional cursus honorum, following his uncle Girolamo Pamphili as auditor of the Rota, and like him attaining the position of cardinal priest of Sant'Eusebio. Before becoming pope, Pamphili served as a papal diplomat to Naples, France, and Spain. Pamphili succeeded Pope Urban VIII on the 15th of September 1644 as Pope Innocent X, after a contentious papal conclave that featured a rivalry between French and Spanish factions. Innocent X was one of the most politically shrewd pontiffs of the era, greatly increasing the temporal power of the Holy See. Major political events in which he was involved included the English Civil War, conflicts with French church officials over financial fraud issues, and hostilities with the Duchy of Parma related to the First War of Castro. In theology, Innocent X issued a papal bull condemning the beliefs of Jansenism. Alexander VII was Senese. Born Fabio Chigi, he began his career as a vice-papal legate, and he held various diplomatic positions in the Holy See. He was ordained as a priest in 1634, and he became Bishop of Nardo in 1635. He was later transferred in 1652, and he became Bishop of Imola. Pope Innocent X made him Secretary of State in 1651, and in 1652 he was appointed a cardinal. Early in his papacy, Alexander, who was seen as an anti-nepotist at the time of his election, lived simply. Later, however, he gave jobs to his relatives, who eventually took over his administration. His administration worked to support the Jesuits. However, his administration's relations with France were strained due to his frictions with French diplomats. Alexander was interested in architecture and supported various urban projects in Rome. He also wrote poetry and patronized artists who expanded the decoration of churches. His theological writings included discussions of heliocentrism and the Immaculate Conception. Clement IX was Pistoiese. Giulio Rospigliosi was born into a noble family in 1600 and studied at the Seminario Romano and the University of Pisa. He held various positions in the church, including titular Archbishop of Tarsus and Apostolic Nuncio to Spain. As a man of letters, he wrote poetry, dramas, and libretti, and was a patron of artist Nicolas Poussin. Appointed as a cardinal by Pope Alexander VII, his pontificate was marked by mediation during European wars, and his popularity in Rome stemmed from his charity, humility, and refusal to advance his family's wealth. He beatified Rose of Lima and canonized Magdalena de Pazzi and Peter of Alcantara, while also creating 12 new cardinals. He attempted to strengthen Venetian defenses against the Turks in Crete, but was unsuccessful in gaining wider support. In 1669, after learning about the Venetian fortress of Candia surrendering to the Turks, Clement IX fell ill and passed away. Clement IX died in Rome, allegedly of a broken heart on the 9th of December, 1669. His successor, Pope Clement X, built him an ornate tomb in the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore. During his reign, he would suffer from a hernia, kidney stones, and epileptic seizures, the later of which, according to the canon law in place at the time, would have disqualified him from exercising any ecclesiastical functions. Clement X was Roman. Elected pope at age 79, he has since been ranked as the oldest pope at the time of his election. Emilio Bonaventura Altieri, born in Rome in 1590, belonged to the ancient Roman nobility. He received a doctorate in law and held various positions within the Catholic Church, including Bishop of Camerino and Superintendent of the Papal Exchequer. As Pope, he canonized and beatified various saints, promoted good relations between Christian countries, and made efforts to preserve the Altieri family name by adopting the Paluzzi family. He also established a new tax in Rome, which led to conflicts with ambassadors and cardinals. Clement X celebrated the 14th Jubilee of the Holy Year in 1675, despite his old age. During his pontificate, he created 20 cardinals, including Pietro Francesco Orsini, who later became Pope Benedict XIII. He was antagonistic to the French King Louis XIV. Innocent XI was Comaschi, born Benedetto Odescalchi in Como. He would have constant tensions with Louis XIV of France, though he would find success by supporting Hungary against the Turks. Within the Papal States, he lowered taxes, produced a surplus in the papal budget, and repudiated nepotism within the Church. After a difficult cause for canonization starting in 1791, he was beatified in 1956 by Pope Pius XII. During his life, he would command the followers of the Talmud in Rome to cease their usury, and he also strongly opposed abortion and championed it as being no different than homicide. In death, his nephew would commission a sculpture by Pierre-Étienne Monod. Features the Pope seated upon the throne above a sarcophagus with a bas-relief showing the liberation of Vienna from the Turks by John III Sobieski, flanked by two allegorical figures representing faith and fortitude. In April 2011, the remains of Innocent XI were moved to make way for remains of the beatified John Paul II. Alexander VIII was Venetian. He is to date the last pope to take the pontifical name of Alexander upon his election to the papacy. Pietro Vito Ottoboni was born in 1610 of a noble Venetian family and was the youngest of 9 children of Vittoria Tornielli and Marco Ottoboni, Grand Chancellor of the Republic of Venice. He is known for having overturned many of the policies of his predecessor, Innocent XI, deciding to indulge in nepotism in order to further enrich his family. Such nepotism exhausted the papal treasury, later forcing his successor, Innocent XII, to implement austere measures to restore the papal coffers. Despite his brief papacy, during which little of importance was undertaken, he is known for having condemned the doctrines of morality independent of God, which was being taught in schools run by the Jesuits. Also, during his papacy, King Louis XIV of France restored Avignon to the Holy See as a territory of the Papal States. Alexander VIII died after possible suffering a minor stroke and a plague from Naples worsening his condition. His grandiose tomb in St. Peter's was commissioned by his grandnephew, Cardinal Pietro Ottoboni, and designed by Count Arrigo di San Martino. The bas-relief at the base and the flanking figures were sculpted by Angelo de Rossi, while the bronze statue of the Pope was cast by Giuseppe Bertozzi. Innocent XII was Spinazzolesi. He took a hard stance against nepotism in the Church, continuing the policies of Pope Innocent XI, who started the battle against nepotism, but which did not gain traction under Pope Alexander VIII. To that end, he issued a papal bull strictly forbidding it. The Pope also used this bull to ensure that no revenue or land could be bestowed on relatives. Antonio Pignatelli, born on the 13th of March, 1615, was a prominent figure in the Roman Catholic Church. He was educated at the Collegio Romano in Rome and served in various positions, including as an inquisitor in Malta, governor of Fano and Viterbo, and apostolic nuncio to Poland and Austria. He was made a cardinal in 1681 and later became Archbishop of Naples in 1686. Pignatelli was elected Pope in 1691, taking the name Innocent XII. He sought to reform the apostolic chamber and introduced a simpler lifestyle in his court. Innocent XII's pontificate was characterized by his leanings towards France rather than the Habsburg monarchy. He created 30 cardinals during his tenure and canonized and beatified several individuals. Innocent XII was already severely ill with gout in 1699, and he died on the 27th of September, 1700.